Hi, Anti-Society. Welcome back to the Antisocial Planet. Today we are checking out P1Harmony, Keeho, his cover of Teenage Fantasy. Now, do I know this song? Unlikely. It doesn't ring any bells. I might recognize some of it when I start to listen to it, but it's unlikely that I'm going to know the original before I check out a cover. That's the usual trend on this channel. But what I do know is that it's a whole song of Keeho vocals, and he always does an incredible job. So I know I'm going to love it. I don't know what the setup is, but we're starting with that shaky cam already.
슬레이트 치겠습니다. 하나, 둘, 셋.
I don't have captions, so no one come at me. Unnecessary, sir. Just like, for why? Why do you have to flex that much immediately? And I know that was easy work for you. This is just gonna be a video of the talent aggression that I feel towards Keeho specifically. I've talked about it before, but there are singers where I'm like, you're an incredible vocalist. I love your voice, obsessed with it, but it's very different from how I sing, so I can separate myself from the fact that you're that talented. Keeho and I sing in very similar ways in terms of technique, and it makes me so mad that he's so good. It's so much harder for me to separate the fact that I will never be that talented, and I'm just like, fine, show off. And then the cute smile? Leave me alone.
You weren't the girl I thought I knew. Maybe I was blind, I was young. I didn't have a clue. You were the topic on my lunch times. I bore the boys about our chats and get upset when you didn't text back.
It's like the jazzier music. I don't think that I recognize the song, but it's like when he goes in that jazz R&B pocket, beautiful lower part of his tone, which fits beautifully with his darker tone that he has naturally, usually has that lowered larynx position, and he's putting in a little bit of like vocal fry at certain points, right? You could hear some of the tension being put into it, which I think is a beautiful contrast for when he's doing all these little vocal runs and things that have a little bit more like looser agility to them. I can tell that he's not even in his truest form yet, you know what I mean? I'm like, we're not even a minute in to this cover, and I know he's working up to something, and I'm just sat here trying to keep myself from being too upset by the fact that he sounds incredible. I just need a second. I'm fine.
This topic on my lunch times. I bore the boys about our chats and get upset when you didn't text back. And I was born by my brother to find another lover. Start falling for these girls who didn't want the same as me. And I was
Little cry there is beautiful.
my sister to find another lover. Start falling for these girls.
So you could hear it there with that fine, because he, like, the onset of that, he's putting a little bit more tension into his voice. And even when he's doing some of those, it's like the vibrato at the end of some of it, he's lifting the sound up. So the sound is placed at like the back of his throat instead of like lower down. I feel like this probably isn't going to make sense to people who aren't singers, but you can feel where sound is placed when you start to figure out your voice enough. And a lot of the time, because Keeho has a usually like lowered voice box sound, he places the sound like right underneath, you know, like where his jawline would be. But when he gets that vibrato, he's shifting it just a little bit further up, and I think that's really interesting. But even that fine, right, like he's putting that little bit of that vocal fry at the beginning of those, which is just adding like a little bit more texture to it.
And I was born by my sister to find another lover. Start falling for these girls.
And then that's farther back, airier.
We all born tired, teenage fantasy. Want it, but we can't have it, 'cause when we got it, we don't seem to want it. None. We all born tired, teenage fantasy. Want it, but we can't have it, 'cause when we got it, we don't seem to want it. Well,
beautiful like mixed tone there, and a little bit brighter. You could hear that he's shifting the sound forward. I feel like it showed a lot with Keeho's voice because it's such a dark tone naturally. When he's sitting farther back in placement of the sound, we get in the verse, and then I'm assuming it's the chorus, you can hear a brighter, pingier sound. You can hear that he's activating the resonance in his nasal cavity a lot more when he gets into some of that like mixed head range. Beautiful. And we're getting more, still some of that like grit in part of it. He's putting some of that tension still in. Tends to be how he uses his voice anyway. We get some of those like cries the more that he tightens up his vocal cords. So a cry is like you're tightening up your vocal cords, building up some of that pressure, and then you're releasing it, and you get that like little cry at the end of certain phrases. So because he needs to tighten up his vocal cords more to get that brighter sound, he's more likely to have those cries put in there, but he's very intentional about where he's putting them, right? About when he's rapidly releasing that tension in order to get them like placed in the right parts of his phrasing and everything. Just beautifully done though. And again, upsets me that this looks easy for him. And I feel like it is, because I'm like, some of the crazier things that he's had to do, some of the crazy high notes he's had to do, or even like getting into some of his lower range, like the bottom end. He has a tendency to have a little bit of a lower range anyway, again, because that darker tone to his voice. But even when he like gets to the bottom of it, or like crazy, some of the crazy high notes he's gotten into some of the songs too. This isn't even him like stretching his range, which I think is why he's taking into some of those things, like those little cries, vocal fry, where he's placing the vibrato and everything, is because he's playing around more with the character of his voice than the kind of, again, range or stretching where his voice can be placed.
Teenage fantasy, want it but we can't have it, 'cause when we got it we don't seem to want it. Well, I got a lot of things to do. What if I have been the fool? Thought I was in love with you. I need to grow and find myself before I let somebody
beautiful vocal
love
ram.
me. 'Cause at the moment I don't know me. Yeah.
Ooh, and I love there like the widening of the sound. They're like may, right? Like the widening up of what that sound placement is. It's a little bit like it's widening up because he's using that unstressed like vowel, which I'm trying to get like too technical about that. But like I love that he is choosing moments where he's really like hitting sounds, right? And he's making sure that he's really enunciating or stretching certain like vowel sounds, and then other times where he just lets the sound fall, right? And he does it a lot with a bunch of his different singing. I have a bit of an advantage in this one in that I've listened to a lot of Keeho singing in terms of previous covers that he's done, discography things, and because he's similar enough in his technique to the way that I also sing, I have a little bit more insight of what he's doing than with voices that are like way outside of what I do, and I'm like, I don't even know. I have no idea how they get that sound out of their voice. It's really interesting to see how he's choosing certain things. And I also feel like he's being a little bit grungier with his delivery in this one. And I mean that by he's not being quite as precise, or he's not getting his like enunciation like quite as meticulous as he does in something like a P1Harmony song, because it's a very specific style, right? When you're singing something that is for like a group, you have to blend with the other people. And when you have pingier voices like with Theo and Jeong, you have to be able to blend with them, and Keeho's a very different voice from them, so he has to figure out a way to kind of bridge with them. And even just the style of singing, right? K-pop, or even like more like hip-hop leaning pop music, right? There's a little bit more emphasis on that like precision, pingier, brighter sound, having a little bit more precise in like the diction and how you're hitting certain sounds, in comparison to something like R&B, jazz, where definitely with like jazz, because there's a lot of improvisation and things, lends a lot more to some of that grungier delivery to some of these sounds, right? Like you don't have to have quite the same precision and everything, because you can go off book a little bit more.
Need to grow and find myself before I let somebody love me.
The little vocal run up was beautifully done.
I don't know me. Yeah. I was told by my father, if I look into the future, do I really see this girl that I think I'm falling for? And I was told by my mother, if I look into the future, do I really see this girl? Oh, no.
Just put a little growl and then a cry in there? Why? For why, sir?
Told by my mother, if I look into the future, do I really see this girl? Oh, no. We all born
Unnecessary.
Teenage fantasy, want it but we can't have it, cause when we got it we don't seem to want it. No, we all want it. Teenage fantasy, want it but we can't have it, cause when we got it we don't seem to want it.
It makes me mad, okay? It makes me mad that he gets to sound like that. And again, easy work for him. A testament to the amount of like practice that he's put in, obviously. Like, he spent a lot of time working on his voice. There's a reason that he sounds the way that he does. The way that he's just playing around with the vowel placement, the enunciation. And again, I think that letting him have a little bit more free reign in how he's singing things is fun to see. A lot of the influence that he has as a vocalist. Obviously, the choice of the song, I think, lends a lot to what he was inspired by and what he has modeled his singing style off of a lot of the time, right? There's a reason that he sounds the way that he does. And I think it's fun with something like a cover where you get to see a lot more of those influences than, again, when he has to make his voice work in the group and play his part within that dynamic, as opposed to being on his own. And he's allowed to just play around and put little riffs in and do a growl into a little cry in his voice. And there was even one part where there was like, I think, an E vowel. So that's like a much higher vowel sound. And he was like hitting that. And then halfway through holding that vowel sound, he just like dropped, he let go of all the tension. And we got like almost like a yodel effect in there. And I was like, sir, like, you don't need to do everything. Okay. You could pick one thing and just make me feel bad about my inability to do that one thing. You don't need to cover all the bases and really make me just be like, fine, be a fantastic singer. It's fine.
When we are young, we all want someone who we think is the one, just to fit in. There's no need to rush. Take your time. Life's a big old ride. Sit back and enjoy the vibe. For we are young, we all want someone who we think is the one.
I don't want to interrupt you, sir, but we can't just pass that.
There's no need to rush. Take your time. Life's a big old ride. Sit back and enjoy the vibe.
A little step up.
We all want someone who we think is the one, just to fit in. No, there's no need to
A little rasp there.
Take your time. Life's a big old ride. Sit back and enjoy the vibe.
Oh, I love that, like, staccato, like, stepping, like, instead of doing a vocal run, right, that you have that like, separate notes that right, like having those different parts of it. Also, that is what my vocal teacher would have said is called taking them for a walk around the block, which is like when you have the vocal runs up and down and up and down, you're taking them all over the place. You're taking them on a little scenic route. Beautiful little moment of him just being like, let me show off a bunch of agility. And like, even there's a gorgeous like rasp at one point too. Again, could have picked one thing. And instead he's like, I don't have to worry about hitting some crazy notes, so I'm just gonna go for it.
Take your time. Life's a big old ride. Sit back and enjoy the vibe. We all want a teenage fantasy. Want it, but we can't have it. Cause when we got it, we don't seem to want it. No. We all want a teenage fantasy. Want it, but we can't have it. Cause when we got it, we don't seem to want it. No. No, no, no. Hey.
You're just showing off now. Yeah, fine. It's fine. Just be casual about it. Just be like, and I'm done now. Again, like the talent aggression that I continuously feel for Keeho specifically has happened since the second I first heard a P1Harmony song. Like literally the first song I ever heard. His voice came on and I was like, hold on. whoopst are you? Even before I really knew the group, right? Knew all the individual personalities, could pick out his voice because I'm like, who are you? And why do you get to sound like that? And it's still, even with that, seeing the way that he's progressed since that time, has had a lot of moments of being able to show off different parts of his voice, but has worked on it, has done a bunch of cool things with his voice and evolving it since then. And I think it's just great that we get a moment of him being like, let me just show off a bunch of different things, right? You're gonna get vocal runs. You're gonna get some of those more like staccato step ups and the vocal melodies. You want some rasp? Got that. Vocal fry, little cries and like yodel effects. Got you. Vibrato? Sure. And again, like just showing off so many different parts of his voice, picking a song that I think fits really well with like his natural tone and the influences that he has had as a vocalist and a musician. And again, getting to be like a little bit more grungy, lean harder into that specific sound that his voice has because he doesn't have to blend in with the rest of the group. There are even parts of that where I'm just like surprisingly proud at the same time because I have also been listening to P1Harmony since they debuted, and like just certain points where I'm like, I'm just so proud that you've made it this far. Good for you. From what, a couple of lines in Siren to giving us something like this? You did so good. I knew he was gonna do a great job, right? Always does. There's just something about him just casually being like, let me just hit these notes, do these runs, put out something. It makes me upset. Proud. Upset though. Proud of him, upset with myself, I guess is the real dynamic there. So good, right? Again, I think it just fits really into that pocket of what his like tone is, his influences, the things that mark him as like a specific kind of vocalist. I think that especially within K-pop, having a bit of a darker tone is something that a lot of the time can't be incorporated super well into pop songs. I think even with Keeho, even though they have a bit of a darker overall tone with P1Harmony songs, he can't really show off all of it the way that he did in this in a P1Harmony song because he's still fitting into that pop sound pocket and again blending with the other people in the group. So I think it's really fun when we get these moments where he does covers and other things outside of the main discography where he really gets to lean in to having that more like R&B darker tone to his voice and a little bit of the lower part of his range for most of this as well. And I think it's a gorgeous way of showing off the different dynamics of his voice and the influences that he has as a vocalist. But I hope you enjoyed listening to that along with me. You can click this playlist to go to my previous reactions, or you can subscribe from time I post a P1Harmony reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye.